Welcome, everyone, to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show. I'm so pleased you're here today. My special guest is Jill Hart, and we're going to be talking about the 4 pillars of podcast guesting. Welcome, everyone. I'm Virginia Parsons, your host, and it really is my passion to provide you, the viewer, with a gold mine of inspirational tips, strategies, and advice to help you grow your business from inspirational businesswomen in the know. And as I just said, Jill Hart is that. She is someone who has really mastered podcasting, taken it to a whole new level, and I'm really looking forward to asking her lots of questions about this, since obviously I've been doing podcasting and video casting for about 10 years, but you're never too old to learn. And Jill's here to share some great tips with us today. Now, before we get started, today's show is sponsored by hangout-marketing.com, where you can receive a complimentary live stream marketing assessment. And why might you want to do that? Well, listen, it's because you can take this assessment in just a few minutes and determine whether or not you're really positioning yourself to brand, grow, and market your business using live stream. So if you'd like to check it out, you might even qualify for a complimentary Shine Online session with me. All you need to do is text #success to 775-800-4179. And I look forward to talking to you once you get a chance to take that assessment. By the way, if you're out of the country, just go to hangout-marketing.com and the assessment will be there for you as well. All right, now before we get started, first of all, I want to say to you, thank you for being here. I know your time's valuable, and I really want to make this powerful information that you can act on. So before we get started, could you do us a favor? And what I'd like to do is play the preview trailer. And while I'm doing that, you can do a couple of simple things. You can go ahead and spread the word, share this broadcast with those you think might have benefit from it, or you might even just want to let a couple friends know and then bring them on in to share the podcast with you. So I'm going to play that right now, and then we'll get started with the interview in just a minute. All right, I think you can see we're in for a real treat today with Jill. So let me get started with the introduction. If you're ready to get more exposure for your business and attract more clients who view you as an expert, you're going to love today's interview with Jill Hart. She's built a top-rated international podcast in 4 months and has interviewed, believe it or not, in 4 months, over 260 life, health, and transformational coaches. Now, Jill specializes in helping coaches attract clients with podcasts using a unique method called strategic podcasting. So today, Jill's going to reveal how to find podcasts your clients are already tuning into, 3 myths keeping coaches from attracting clients with their podcasts. I want to hear this one. And key strategies to client attraction as a podcast guest. Now, Jill has been in marketing and sales for over 40 years and discovered that when she let go of trying to force things to happen and just focus on her mission, I want to hear about that. Things started to fall into place for her. So, welcome, Jill, to the show. It's so great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Virginia. I'm really excited to chat with your listeners about podcasting and doing it
Yeah.
strategically.
Strategic podcasting, I think, because many people will think about starting a podcast because they think they should, or it's in trend and everyone says, oh, you need to do this for your business. And it's not right for everyone. I certainly thought about it quite a while, even though I started this 10 years ago. But, before we get started on your topics, I want to talk to you a little bit about your mission, because I think your mission is really what's guiding you. And Jill, first of all, I can't believe you've been doing this for 40 years, or you've been in marketing for 40 years. You are so young looking. So anyway,
Wonders
let's
of the
talk
internet.
about the mission, because mission is really what guides all of us, isn't it? And I would love to hear how you worked that out, because you struggled with this a little bit until you decided how you were going to really bring your business to the forefront using podcasts. So let's hear about your mission.
I really did, and it starts with my story, which is perfect timing. I believe this is going to drop on Monday, the date of the Great American Eclipse, April 8th, which takes me back to where I was in my head during the first eclipse. This eclipse is going to make the X over the eclipse that happened in 2017. So back in 2017, I was really concerned that the world was being taken over by the New World Order, that we'd already gone over the cliff and we're just waiting for the landing. My mental outlook was horrible about the prognosis for the trajectory of humanity, honestly. And so in about 2022, I started closing, which is just selling for a health coach who was teaching health coaches how to market their business. And I got to talk to all of these health coaches, and they were just like doing amazing things out there, really making a difference. And I started to think, hey, we're not going over the cliff. There's this group of people that are standing on the edge, protecting us and really shifting the global consciousness from one of hopelessness to one of big hope. And I just felt compelled to share their stories and help them have a voice. And that's really how the You World Order Showcase podcast got started. And I started back in April of 2023. And my mission is to just help them have a voice, help them be able to attract clients, because by attracting clients, they're actually changing the way the global consciousness works. You change one person, that person has a periphery of people, and it ripples out, and it just makes such a huge difference. So that's my mission. And when I realized that I could do this just by talking to them on the air and sharing their stories, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and who they're doing it for, it's like I knew this was where I wanted to be. Then, after interviewing, I have interviewed over 300 people to date, and um, I found that there were certain things that were stopping them from really being able to take full advantage of going on podcasts as a guest. And it's really the cutting edge of marketing is being featured on other people's podcasts, if you know what you're doing. To
Right,
put that
right.
caveat out there. So that's my mission.
Well, it's actually similar, but I arrived at mine in a little different way. Because when I started to do this show, I was doing it first of all back on Hangouts on Air and on Google Plus, and built my whole business on Google Plus, which now doesn't exist anymore. Neither do Hangouts on Air. We've all
Mhm.
about. But at the time, people were starting to use these live streams and didn't really know how to use them in a way. that was very effective or very professional. And I think it's fine to be casual, but I mean, I'm not kidding. I was just seeing people just with their backgrounds totally distracting from what they were doing, books falling off of bookshelves. And I'm thinking, there's got to be a better way. We've just now been given a tool that we didn't have access to before that was free. And if you want to build up your expertise in the no trust and like factor, you at least have to come across somewhat professional. So that's when I started doing the broadcast, and that's when I started teaching other people how to do effective live streaming and do it in a way that can help build your expert reputation and attract more clients because people feel a connection with you. So when I started the show, it was all about I wanted to give a platform to people who didn't normally have a platform to share their brilliance because there's so many wonderful people out there. And of course, you know, I love to support women entrepreneurs primarily, although I do interview a few bright men. But that was really meaningful to me that there's a platform now that we can use and get the word out, and it doesn't have to cost so much for people to really market themselves. So it's kind of interesting how we both came about this with a similar type of mission, although it came from a different place. No eclipse
Yeah.
involved in mine.
Well, I just actually just realized that before we got on the podcast, it's like, hey, we're coming to the intersection of the two eclipses, and life is so much better here. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? Exactly. Okay, well, let's get into giving our viewers some great content that I know they're going to find really of value. And the first one is finding podcasts that their ideal audience is already tuning into. This to me seems like a great shortcut to really growing your expertise and reaching the right people. So let's hear a little bit about how we find those podcasts, Jill.
Okay, hold on to your seats. This is going to be life-shaking for you. The way you find podcasts where your ideal clients are tuning in is to think back to when you were first trying to solve the problem that you solve for others. And almost universally with coaches, they're coaching on something that they found the solution to a problem they were struggling with. So think back to when you were struggling with that problem yourself, and think about the kinds of podcasts you would like to have listened to, that you would have sought out in order to find the solution to your problem. And those are the podcasts your ideal clients are tuning into. It's
So in
really
other
that
words,
simple.
you're your own ideal client. If you look
Mhm.
back, you're just at a different stage of
Yep.
development. You've found a lot of those answers.
Mhm.
And so you're saying to search for podcasts that solve the problems that you needed solved, that you would have gone to and listened to yourself and for information. And
Yep.
I think that's so simple. I mean, we don't even need to take notes on that. That's just kind of like a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people don't think of it.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know where to find these podcasts. I don't know where my people are. It's just like, where were you? And that's where they'll be.
So do you work a little bit with keywords and in putting those into your searches so that, and where else? I mean, there's a lot of podcasts out there in different locations. Are you doing the search on Google? Are you doing it on YouTube? Are you doing it on
There's
iTunes?
there's a whole bunch of directories out there that you can actually just put into the Google, as I like to call it, podcast directories, and then go to the podcast directories and then search. Put your
Mhm.
keywords in there that you would have, liked an answer to, like, weight loss or anxiety or stress or parenting problems, or whatever it is that you're solving the problem for, and then see what comes up, which podcasts come up, and listen
Simple
to a few of
advice.
them,
Oh,
and
let's pause there
and
for
do
a
them.
moment and listen to a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You have to do your own homework as well, as far as where you think you might be comfortable being interviewed, right? So that's why you're going to listen to them. See if you sense that you resonate with the host. You think you would feel comfortable and not intimidated, that you can have a natural conversation with, right?
Right, right. And that's really important. It's understanding what they're doing and what they're what they're looking for with their listeners or for their listeners. It's
Go
usually
ahead.
important to listen to podcasts in order to um, help yourself understand what the podcast is all about and how the interview process will actually go, so that you're not caught flat-footed, which it kind of goes into the four pillars of podcast guesting, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But um, it all weaves together: the three myths, knowing where to tune in, and the four pillars.
Great. Well, we'll definitely be getting to that. So, for you guys viewing right now, whether you're live or here in replay, thank you, first of all, for being here and taking the time. Are you already getting some great ideas from Jill? If you find something that really resonates with you and you're going to make use of right away, just go ahead and put in the comment section, pound gem, right? Hashtag gem, and tell us what the gem is that you've heard today. We would love to hear from you what really is resonating. And also, if you have questions, put those down and we'll make sure that you get those answered as well. All right, Jill. So is there anything else you want them to know about searching for the best podcast?
No, if you wanted to come to the challenge, which is part of the free gift that I'm offering, you'll get more information about that, and we will walk hand in hand. The reason it's a challenge is because we're actually rolling up our sleeves and getting to work on this one. It's not just showing up and listening with half an ear. We're going to do some work, we're going to have some homework, and you'll walk away knowing where to find your clients, what to do on the podcast. You'll answer all of the four pillars that you're looking to, that you need to have in place in order to be featured on podcasts effectively.
Oh, that sounds great. So she's just seated that there's a wonderful free gift coming to all of you. Stay to the end, make sure that you pick up that gift from Jill, because it's really going to show you how to apply what she's talking about today. And I am a big one for that. Concepts are great, strategies are great, but nothing works if you don't implement. So Jill's got that coming to you at the end of the interview. All right, so let's get into those three myths that are keeping coaches from attracting clients with podcasts. Let's hear about that.
Okay, so the first myth is that it doesn't matter which podcasts you get featured on. We kind of talked about that a little bit with how to find podcasts where your ideal clients are tuning in. If you're getting featured on podcasts that you're if you're just randomly going on podcasts, which a lot of people do, it's just like, oh, they're going to let me come on and talk to them, then you're kind of watering down your message, and you're not really targeting your time. And I think that's really important, that we work smarter, not harder, because there's so many things that you're having to do all of the time. You're trying to do coaching, you're trying to do marketing, you're trying to do all of these different pieces. And going on podcasts is a really good way to do marketing, but it is marketing. It's not like the whole picture of what you're doing. So if you pick your podcast strategically, you only have to go on maybe a couple a week, in order to really have a steady stream of clients. But you need to know how to qualify those podcasts as well. And that is something that I help my clients with. And you'll learn more about in the challenge. We'll talk more about that. But there's over 70 million podcast episodes out there right now, which is insane.
Yeah.
And of those 70 million podcasts out there, really only the top 5% of podcasts get 90% of the downloads. So it really is important that you think about strategically which podcasts you're going on and why you're going on them.
Yeah. 2%? Is
So
that what you said? 2%?
the top
Top 5%.
5%
Okay. Even so.
get
Yeah.
90%.
Well, so it's not that, I would look at it from the standpoint of if you are new to podcasting, go ahead and just get on as many as you can because you'll get more comfortable with it if you've got that time. And that will make it so that when you get on the ones that you really are looking for, then you'll really be ready to go and you'll, as I say, you'll shine online. So,
Yeah, that's true too. I would agree with that. And it's if you know how to qualify the podcast, then you maybe will be able to pick some of the ones that you know aren't going to get as much traction.
yeah,
Go on there and practice. And
exactly.
and we're going to go over the 4 pillars, which are really important that you practice all of the aspects of those 4 pillars when you're going on the podcast. And then when you get those podcasts that are really big and juicy, then you'll know what you're doing instead of going, man, I wish I could redo that one because that
Yeah,
sucked.
right, right. Yeah, so I think it's important to keep that in mind that, yeah, you don't want to just overwhelm yourself with so many podcasts that you're neglecting other parts of your business. It is about exposure, it's about visibility, it's about credibility, and it's also about articulating your message effectively. And I think
Mhm.
that's what, for many people, takes some practice. And so practice on the ones that aren't as quite as critical to you so that you, when the big ones come along, you really can share your brilliance in a way that gets people excited and interested in what you do if they happen to be having the challenge that you actually provide the solution for. So that all
Which
makes sense.
which
So
brings me
what,
to myth number 2,
okay,
which is
we're going there together.
we're going there together. So just chatting about whatever with the host and expecting that to attract your next client is not probably a very good strategy. The host really mostly cares about their audience and they want their guests to bring value to those listening. So if you don't have a plan, one will be provided for you. And most podcast hosts that I've experienced don't necessarily have as clear an outline of what they're doing as you do, Virginia. You have so much experience with this that you've got it down to like, here, let me walk you through it. We'll make it super simple for you to come on and
Right.
do
I hope
this.
so after all this
But
time.
it's really easy to come on your podcast because you know what to expect. But most podcasts, when you go on there, especially in the beginning, and if you don't really have an idea of where you want to take the audience,
Mhm.
then you're going to get lost in the weeds. You're going to be talking about wherever the host drags you, instead of drawing them back. And it is actually possible to give the host a list of questions or topics. And that's where the one sheet comes in.
Mhm.
It's not really for the host as much as it's for you to help you um, narrow down the one thing that you want to talk about, the one direction you want people to go, the one action you want them to take. Because if you start giving them lots of information, then they're just going to wander away going, God, I don't really know how I want them to help me.
Well, that's really important. I always suggest to people that anything that they do around their business, they always begin with the desired end result in mind. And when you start from there, it's much easier to construct where you want to go with a discussion. And
Mhm.
it's just like what you're doing here today. So do you see really how Jill is exemplifying what she's talking about, and the fact that the desired end result is for you to take advantage of her upcoming challenge, where she's
Yes.
going to teach you so much more. And so she found an opportunity to seed that in. So we're sort of helping dissect all of this for you so you can see how you can implement it in your own interview strategies. And that's why she talks about this as a system that she teaches. It is more than just appearing on a mess of podcasts. There's a lot more planning that goes into it and deliberation. But once you've worked this out, you've got your own system and it's rinse and repeat, right, Jill?
It is absolutely rinse and repeat. And that's why I call it strategic podcast guesting as opposed to random podcast guesting, which I think
Yeah.
is practiced by many out there. But if you just cover these few little points, if you really narrow them down, it takes a bit of work in the beginning to really get it all set up. But after that, it's like you just find the podcasts that your ideal clients are tuning in, you book on with those people, you do the episode, and you move on.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole lot of time. But in the beginning, it's getting it all organized. And this kind of brings us to the third myth that people believe, and that's that just showing up and being on podcasts is enough. Your clients will magically appear and all will be well in the world. And that just simply isn't realistic. You need to learn how to leverage your own content. And I tell people that come on my podcast, I actually give them the link to download the episode themselves because I look at it as this is our content that we've created together. Go out there and use it, chop it up, make shorts, post the whole thing on your podcast. I don't really care. My mission is to help getting your message out there. I've just given you, an hour of my time to put your message out there in a way that you want to share it. Now go and promote it. And I go over ways that you can do this. I have 8 unique ways that I teach my clients to do this as part of the course that I do offer after the challenge. So when you go into the challenge, there will be an offer made. We'll just throw that out there. I'm not in this to not make money myself. So while I do a lot of things for free, there are ways to systematically promote podcast episodes that you're on. And if you're not having to do so many of them, you're more likely to be able to promote them more effectively. This is where once you get familiar with it, and you churn and burn through the first, I'd say, dozen or so to get good and comfortable at it,
Mhm.
then start doing it strategically. You know what you want to say, the 4 pillars. Are you ready for the 4 pillars now?
Yes, the key strategies to client attraction as a podcast guest. Here we go. She's got 4 pillars for you, Jill. Let's hear them. I hope you're all
Okay.
taking notes. And again, I want to hear from you. What are you hearing from Jill that really resonates with you that you want to take action on? We want to hear about that. Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. So the first pillar is what to do before you start applying for podcasts. And this is the most crucial and important aspect that I see. It's the biggest mistake most coaches make, honestly, going on podcasts. They don't know what the end result is that they want. They don't really have their offer nailed down clearly, which is the biggest problem. And an offer is different than what do you do? And sometimes people are confused by those two, but um, there's a certain group of things that you need to do before you apply to be on podcasts. And I'll tell you that the one of the ones is to make sure all your links work and that all your links will continue to work ongoing, because you go on a podcast like this and you have a link, and then this episode's going to be around forever. Well, as long as these platforms are around anyway, and your link's going to be out there for a long time. And if you go on lots of podcasts, you've got all these dead links, and that does not do a lot for your reputation, let me tell you. Um, so make sure your links work.
And I have to interject
Number
that
two,
because you know that that's an issue for a show that's been around for 10 years. And people weren't thinking about that. I mean, my shows from 10 years ago are still getting views. And people are still clicking on links because I can see it because I have a link tracker. And they're clicking on links that I know, unfortunately, they don't work anymore. And many I've contacted the people I interviewed and say, you're missing out, and they're off doing something else. And that's really unfortunate. So really, I want to drive that point home with Jill that when you create a link, at the very least, even if you decide to put something else in its place, keep using that link. Don't let go of that link. It's important.
yeah, it's very important. I've clicked on links for from really old videos, and that it's just like, man, I really needed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so disappointing. So the second thing is we talked about a little bit earlier on in this interview, but knowing where to find your clients, how to qualify the podcasts to find really good podcasts to go on where your message is actually going to get promoted is important. And knowing where you want to lead your audience to, knowing your end game, and how to approach these hosts in a way that makes you stand out and you can get their attention. And there are some techniques for doing that. Again, we'll talk about those in the challenge, but it's that's the second thing. The first thing is being prepared to go on the podcast. The second thing is finding and qualifying podcasts. The third thing is knowing what to say on the podcast. And there are techniques for leading the conversation to where you want the audience to go. And we do cover that in the challenge as well. And the fourth thing we talked about a little bit in the 3 myths, and that is that you need to know what to do after the episode drops, even before the episode drops, in order to ensure the most exposure for your efforts. And it can be simple things like, making shorts or just talking to your friends or sharing the podcast episode, letting them know it's coming up. And, even your real life friends, excuse me, if they're interested in what you're doing, or if they can benefit from what you're doing, or if they could benefit from other people that are hosted on that podcast, share the podcast, get the message out. It doesn't just help the podcast, it helps the other people tuning in, and it helps your episode too. So those are
Yeah,
the
I
four
really agree with
points.
that fourth. I think it's very overlooked for a lot of people. They just think, well, I've been on a podcast now, and then they let it go. But you really want to be marketing what you've just delivered. Many people, even who do, for instance, like a pop-up Facebook Live, for instance, don't realize that that's an asset to their business now. And they leave it just sitting on Facebook where it gets lost in, the bottomless pit, and don't even download it and have it as an asset that they can leverage. So I think that that's super important that people realize that it's an asset you now can market in multiple ways. And as Jill said, leverage, that's a big part of what I do for people. So those are 4 great pillars that Jill has just touched on today. And I know she's got more in her gift. So let me go over and get the gift so we can talk about this for a moment, because we want to make sure that you do take advantage of her gift. So to go get her gift, and I'm going to say this as well as you're seeing it, go to shinetips.com/Jill gift. It's that easy. Shinetips.com/Jill gift. And you'll find something very special there. Jill, go ahead and tell them what it's all about.
I am doing these 3-day client magnet podcast challenges, and they will be twice a month in my community over on Facebook. And during these 3-day challenges, it's not like just show up and listen to me drone on for an hour and try to sell you something. It's going to be bring your pen and paper or open your notepad, get your fingers on that keyboard. You're going to be wanting to join in the chat and join the conversation, answering questions, really thinking about some things when it comes to preparing to be on podcasts. And we're going to get you all lined up with the 7 elements of your offer, which, like I said, this is where everything begins. You got to know what it is that you're offering to people in exchange for payment, because we're in business. We need to collect money at some point. And we'll talk about the next thing that you want to offer, your free gift, if you will, for when you go on podcasts. And we will talk about how to promote your podcast or your episode, some ideas about that. And there will be homework. And this is the big part. There'll be prizes. I'm really big on prizes these days. So there's going to be prizes for people who are commenting. There's just a random winner slides in my presentation. So you're going to want to be part of that. And there's going to be a grand prize for one person who completes comments all 3 days, whether you're live or if you're catching the replay, because we are an international community and we have people from all over the world. Honestly, only just over 50% of our community on Facebook is from the US. Everybody else is from everywhere else. So, like I say, I do things on Mountain Time because that's where I am, but people that come and participate in our community are on there 24/7 because everybody's somewhere else. So don't worry about if you're doing the replay, totally fine. Do the homework each day. And that's how you get entered into win the grand prize. And I'll tell you what the grand prize is in the community that you will join once you click that link to register for the event. And this event will change each month, but the link will always remain the same. So
Wonderful. Oh, it sounds like so much fun. I think I'm going to have to do it for sure. So
I'd love to have you, Virginia.
you've got the link. It's shinetips.com/Jill gift. Make sure that you take advantage of that. We have so much in common. It's just that I've been doing this for a while. So, I've got my systems all in place, and I just love hearing from other people who are doing it a little bit differently. Remember, guys, we all have opportunities to grow and learn no matter what stage we're at in our business. And so that's why I just love to bring new guests on and share their brilliance, because it helps uplift all of us. And here we are. You've just already heard what Jill's mission is in uplifting so many entrepreneurs and different providers of health and all the range of different things that we all do so that we can be of service. It's really a beautiful circle of life. I love it. Jill, I love having you on here. Before we go, any last message you want to leave with people? Like, wrap this up in a nice, tidy bow. What do you want to make sure they take home with them as the last thought?
Well, let's go back to the eclipse, because I think this is just like the X marks the spot on, we're done with the old ways. Now there's something new, and it's a new world full of opportunity and collaboration. I think collaboration is the word of the year this year. It just makes my heart sing and swell when I see people networking with each other and finding ways to just make the world a better place and not have to feel like you're competing with each other, that you're just enhancing each other's greatness by being together. And I love that so much. And being able to interview people on my podcast, it just allows me to see this and see what they're doing. And I've connected so many different people, because it's like, oh yeah, I remember that person I talked to, and I think you guys need to get together, because what you're doing is just like great by yourselves, but together you're just gonna be so much more. And that just lights me up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So collaboration, coming together, the merging. of two beautiful energies or more, obviously. And that's the idea of the eclipse merging together in a way. So I've loved this conversation, Jill. I hope all of you have too. Again, let us know what gems you really resonated with. Put those in the comment section. We want to hear about your questions too. So put those in if you haven't already, and we'll make sure that we answer those. In the meantime, go out and take advantage of some of the strategies she's already taught you. Put them into action. Without implementation, nothing changes, right? So I want to thank you, Jill, so much for being with us today. And I want to thank all you for taking the time as well. And we'll see you all on the next Inspirational Businesswoman Show. Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much for watching today. Do you know someone who would be a great guest for our show? Or would you like to be a guest on the Inspirational Businesswoman Show? Let's shine the spotlight on your expertise. We'll share your story while offering tips, strategies, and advice to our viewers. Expert interviews are a great way to build your reputation as the go-to expert. Go to shinetips.com/IBWS to apply today. Women are waiting for your message, and I can't wait to interview you.